Welcome back to Pig's Ear Interview here at the Tojo Dojo, one of the only places where we're talking about what we've been watching and playing. I'm Myshtuff, joined by the wonderful Riku Rose. How you doing today?
I'm good, thanks, mate. How are you?
Oh, good. Can't complain. So we're going to be talking about a couple of exciting things here, or at least mine, I think, is relatively. I don't know. You're going to tell me about what you've been watching, but we're going to be
Yeah.
checking out Westworld and Bullet Train here. But before we do, just reminder: make sure to subscribe and comment, like, tell us what you've been watching, things you've been playing. Lately, been a little scarce on games we've been talking about. But next episode, we got a couple, at least one, I think, that we'll be talking about too. So stay tuned for those. But yeah, so with that, let's just get right into it. So I'll start off with Westworld. So
Wow. So you watched? Wait, you watched that movie from the '80s?
I was going to ask, have you watched anything of Westworld, either the show or the original
I watched the
movies?
original movie.
Okay, so for those people who don't know, because Westworld is, fairly successful as a TV series, a lot of people may not or I don't know if it's common or not, I should say, but it was based technically off an original movie, Westworld, that I actually think was 70s, if I'm not mistaken, or like
Okay.
late 70s, something like that. Did you know that there was a sequel to that movie called Future World?
No, I didn't know that. I didn't
Yeah,
know
yeah. So there was actually another movie they made a couple years later called Future World, which is funny because as you watch Westworld, you start seeing some of the ideas from both of those movies, especially Future World, kind of take a little bit more shape. But definitely the premise is more from that original Westworld movie. So those movies have, I mean, other than loosely being based on them, they're not connected to the series or anything like that. It's not like a
So
continuation.
I know it was directed by sci-fi author Michael Crichton, who wrote Jurassic Park, the
Hmm.
book.
Hmm.
Was it not? Did he not write a book beforehand? I thought Westworld was originally one of his books that he
Oh,
then wrote, then directed.
Oh, as far as that, I'm not 100% sure on. I guess I didn't realize that either.
I might be
Maybe.
wrong. That's just always what I've had in my head.
Okay, yeah, I guess I'm not sure about that. It's certainly possible.
I'll look it up while you.
Yeah. Let me know. I didn't realize that. But yeah, so Westworld and Future World were kind of two back-to-back movies, late 70s, early 80s. But then for about 40 years, no one gave a shit about those movies until suddenly they wanted to make a TV series about this.
It is an original movie. There you go.
Okay, cool. Good to know.
70, 73.
Oh fuck, so it was early 70s. Damn, I thought it was later. So yeah, even what 50 close to, well, I guess the show started about 5 years ago. But yeah, basically close to like 40 years or so after these movies came out, which is surprising because I thought this concept would have come up again, but it really hadn't until this TV show started. But really, like I said, the movies aren't connected to the TV series other than just once again being loosely based. So you don't have to watch the original movies unless you want just a goofy 70s sci-fi movie that you feel like you want to watch. I mean, they're still fun to watch, that era of like sci-fi and stuff like that. But the TV series though, so interestingly, it's co-created. There's two people who are in charge of it. Lisa Joy is one of them, and she's married to Jonathan Nolan. So they're both creating it. So if the name Nolan sounds familiar, it's because he's the brother of Christopher Nolan, and so Christopher and Jonathan have collaborated on like some of the movies that have come out, like Inception and maybe Prestige, if I'm not
I
mistaken.
think he helped write some of the Dark Knight movies.
Yeah, Dark Knight, I think, as well. So he's collaborated with him before, but prior to Westworld, I wasn't sure what Jonathan had done other than like helping Christopher out. But you can tell though that they're related because some of those cinematic flares are in this show, which it's not a bad thing, but you kind of pick up on that a little
So you
bit.
can't understand what anyone's saying.
Yes, exactly. Loud noises by Hans Zimmer. You just go deaf listening to this now. Nothing like that. It's not like that much related, but you can tell there's a little bit of those flares from his brother Christopher directing from time to time. Um, so the show, though, the premise is relatively simple at first, which is it's essentially a theme park called Westworld, where you have these people who are super rich, like the elite kind of one percenters who want to just spend a weekend having fun. And so they go to this theme park where there's a bunch of highly sophisticated robots and AI kind of um, software embedded in them where they essentially just look like regular people, and the humans who go in can do whatever they want. So they could be really nice and just talk to them, have drinks, hang out and go horse riding, or as you could imagine the negative side, not so great things, either sexually or just flat out murdering them, doing all sorts of crazy shit. But the premise, though, is every day it gets reset. So there's a crew that comes and takes these robots, cleans them up, or completely replaces them, puts them back, and then the next day just resumes again. So it's essentially like a theme park where there's the staff that takes care of stuff. But the hook, though, is that over time, the robots kind of start realizing like, hey, this is kind of fucked up. Like, and they gain sentience and start realizing like something's not right here, and then they go into the backstory about how they were created. Like the first couple seasons, Anthony Hopkins is in it, and he kind of plays kind of the original creator, and there's all kind of stuff going on with the back and forth of why he created them and stuff like that. So that's the original premise. And so right now they just ended their fourth season the other day, or a week or so ago. The first two seasons are fantastic, like really, really good sci-fi, great like thought experiment type of stuff. There's some interesting like back and forth between time, or like, how can I say this? Like the future and past, like tying things together. They do a really good job about like showing and not telling, which is good. Like not a lot of shows have problems with like exposition dumps and stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
so it's like that kind of isn't fun. And I think we even talked about this last time with Better Call Saul. Like you were saying, the show treats you intelligently, right? Like they don't
Mm-hmm.
treat you like a dumbass. So this show, I think, does a great job with that of these first couple seasons. And then season three kind of goes off the rails a little bit.
Okay.
So I guess so I'm trying to remember. Did you say you've seen any of the show or
No,
no?
I've not seen that yet.
Okay. So people universally have said that the third season kind of takes a shit a little bit, where it like, so they basically, that's the first time that they explore outside of the park, and like robots are going outside of the confines of essentially what's a prison for them, and they're going into the real world. And that's when they start bringing in like more modern day stuff of like social media being bad, and like technology, and like all the shit, which it does relate to the story, but I think they convoluted a little too much. And that's where I can't even believe I'm saying this, but the show almost treats people too intelligently in
Right.
the sense of like they just don't explain enough, and they assume you know what they're talking about, when most people who watched it are like, what the fuck is happening? Like it's just things are happening, and cool little flares. Like that was my problem with Tenet. You saw that, didn't
Yeah,
you?
yeah.
Like I didn't like that movie because it was just a bunch of fancy shit happening. But I'm like, I don't like, what am I taking from this movie? Like, did you feel that way when you watched that movie?
With Tenant, a lot of stuff was happening, and you're like, what is going on? What is actually happening?
Hmm.
And then when they even, the problem with that movie is when they explain stuff, it was stupid,
Sure.
right? I, I don't know about Jonathan Nolan because
Hmm.
it's hard to know who wrote what and who
Sure.
didn't.
Sure.
I think Chris Nolan's got a really good eye. I think his weakness is in writing.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that also carries over to Jonathan Nolan. I think he's really good at looking and sounding smart, but then when you actually think about it, you go, well, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and I don't. That's the thing. Like once again, these first two seasons of the show, I think, are written beautifully. They do a wonderful job, and things do make sense. So I don't know if I think what frankly happened is they kind of hit a narrative wall, and they're like, "Oh shit, we have another season. What are we supposed to do?" And that's where they tried to like set up all these different mysteries and interconnected things, and like some of it was cool. The visuals are incredible. That's the one thing that's consistent throughout all of it. The visuals are great, and frankly, even the acting is really good. But it's just they set up too much, and like it just frankly didn't make sense in that third season. So I think what happened though is in the fourth season they kind of pulled it back a little bit, where they tried to like tie things together a little bit better, but frankly once again they just made it ultra confusing, where if I'm not mistaken, I think there's 8 episodes again. The first 7 episodes, all kinds of shit is happening, and then in the 8th episode, I think honestly the first 20 minutes was just nonstop exposition, and I'm like this wasn't worth this payoff because
Hmm.
none of it made sense. So that's where once again, like they do essentially, without spoiling it, they do leave it open for a final. I'm assuming a final 5th season. I think they've said they've always just wanted to cut it at 5 seasons, thankfully, and I'm hopefully they're going to stick the landing with it. But it wasn't like bad, but
Not
like I
good.
said, it's just like I just it's not often. Okay, I think fairly often I can watch a show or a movie and go, man, all right, I really like this, or no, I didn't like it. Like usually pretty clearly, or frankly, if
Yeah.
something is just average, I can say it's average. That's fine. This is one of the few shows where like I don't know what to think about it, because on one hand it's really good, but then on the other hand it's complete nonsense half the time.
Yeah, it's that difficult thing when you love things about something, but overall, but then you hate other things about it, and you just don't know where you stand. Do I like this? Do I not? I like this, but I hated that. I like this, but I hated that.
Yeah, like I'm not going to shun the whole show, because once again, I
Mm.
think it is more good than bad. Like there's a lot to really enjoy about this show, and I am still invested. But they just, I don't want to say dumb it down, because it's not that. It's just they need to tie things together a little bit and have payoffs kind of throughout the show, as opposed to like everything at the end in one big climax. And it's like it's not really worth it at that point. So it's difficult. Like on one hand, I want to give this show the show as a whole, I will say a thumbs up. Still, I think it is worth watching. Season 3 and 4 in particular, though, it's not a complete thumbs down, but it's just like why, like
Yeah,
why did they have to do this?
shows are hard as well because,
Yeah,
like, if they don't stick a landing, it can taint your entire view of the show.
exactly.
So, a couple of shows like Lost, for example, I loved Lost.
Hmm.
Lost was great. I liked watching it every week, talking to people at work,
Hmm.
like, what do you think is going to happen? What do you think this means? Blah, 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 right? And then
Hmm.
the last episode happened, and I was like, don't think I can ever watch that show ever again.
So I that is one of the few sci-fi kind of mega hit shows I've yet to watch. I've never watched Lost.
Yeah. Um, I think the problem with that show as well is it was also one of those time and place shows
Yeah,
where, as I said, it was like talking to people about it week to week. Like
sure.
that was what was fun about it,
Yeah, yeah.
and that was it. It didn't stick the landing, and now you're just sort of left with like, oh, a load of
Mm,
mysteries that are either never gets resolved or it was bullshit.
yeah,
And
exactly.
more on the light-hearted side, like How I Met Your Mother,
Hmm.
that show, everyone hated the ending,
Really.
hated it. To the point where that show's not really seen in the same sort of sense as other sitcoms like Friends
Hmm.
and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, like, and that's the thing. It's like not sticking the landing. It's easier to sum it up with a movie. Say a movie's 2 hours and the last half an hour is crap.
Hmm.
It feels easier to say, yeah, that movie's crap. It's stupid.
Yeah,
But when it's one episode out of 250, you're like,
it's such a it like I don't know what it is. I think it just like it just stings more because you've invested so much time into these characters and story
mm-hmm,
that it like hurts more that you didn't get that satisfying conclusion. Like we talked about last time with Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad, those like could have ended terribly, but they
mm-hmm.
did a great job. They respected the audience and the characters, and they ended it at its peak without having it tank after like 8 more seasons or something like that. So
I do think more shows end badly than well.
yeah. Hmm.
Because I think it's hard, not just people's expectations, but sum up a story in a satisfying conclusion. Stephen King's always got crap. for how the meme is he can't write endings.
Yeah, right.
Which
Yeah,
not all his endings are great. There's some I like, there's some I don't.
yeah. Well, I mean, one of my favorite shows of all time, as I've mentioned, X Files. I that that franchise has technically ended like three different times now between the original one, a movie, and then a follow-up miniseries. All three endings were garbage, like not a good one in the bunch. But that doesn't take away from the fact that I still love the show. But granted, I think I can do that with that. Like, here's another interesting difference. I can do it with that kind of show because it's episodic and they're so self-contained that the ending, frankly, doesn't really matter. But when you have a show like Better Call Saul or Westworld that is an extended narrative, or I don't know, Lost if that was the case or not as well.
Yeah,
It If you don't stick that landing, it's like, well, then what was everything for? Like,
yeah,
I don't know. It's a mix.
yeah. I think Stephen King, for instance, is aware of it because in his series The Dark Tower, which is like 8 books,
Yeah.
like the second and last chapter, he literally breaks the fourth wall and is like, if you think the ending might disappoint you, stop reading now and just remember the journey.
Are you serious?
Yeah, he's just like, the journey is what matters.
Sure.
How you got here. He's like,
Yeah.
the ending, even if you don't like it, shouldn't take away from everything up to this point. He's
Mhm.
like, if you think that's going to ruin it for you, I suggest you close this book now. He legit, like, it legit says that.
Was it ruined? Did you like it?
I enjoyed the ending.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think in that series, that's not one of the ones people point to
Hmm.
of his stories. Like, a lot of people give it crap and,
Yeah. Hmm.
things like that. So, but I
It's
enjoy it. But
funny.
I just think it's interesting the way that, like, we view one, like, a bad last scene can change our entire view on an entire, like, 50, 60 episode show.
Hmm. Oh, it happened with Game of Thrones as well. People lost their shit. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting how this show ends because they do for the end of this fourth season. Like I said, they leave it open for another one, which isn't surprising. But the what they're teasing, I think, is good because essentially it's going to make things a little bit simpler again. I think. And if that's the case, then they can have a more focused final act and just hopefully knock it out of the park. So that's why, like, I'm still
Are you talking
invested.
about Westworld or the next Marvel movie?
In this case, Westworld. Next Marvel movie, that's never going to end. So I'll see you in 50 years when that's finally over. Um, so once again, I know went on a long tangent here. Like I said, I do recommend watching the show
Yeah.
as a whole, but season 4 and season 3 are a little weaker. It's weird because like season 1 and 2, great. Season 3 and 4, not so great. So season 5 is really going to tip the scales. I feel like of how this is going to live in the long run.
Let's hope it don't just keep going.
Yeah, I would hope so as well. So definitely check it out. Oh, and like I mentioned with the Better Call Saul episode, Aaron Paul has been in it since season
Yeah.
3, and it was just once again hilarious seeing Jesse Pinkman like, but played by a mid-30s man one day, and then the next day watching Westworld, seeing Aaron Paul playing his age, and it was the same actor, so that just cracked me
Yeah.
up. So,
All right.
anyways, check it out.
So overall, thumbs up or thumbs down?
I would still say thumbs up
Okay.
overall for the show as a whole. Yes, I would
Okay.
still say a thumbs up.
All right
All
then.
right, over to you.
So I watched Bullet Train, and as a man of culture or a fan of Japan, um, I'm sure this movie interests you.
Yes,
I
it seemed interesting. Yeah.
Yes, Brad Pitt is like he's not an assassin, but he's a guy who does like shady jobs,
Hmm.
and he's assigned with picking up a package on the bullet train.
Hmm.
But he's like the unluckiest guy in the world,
Okay.
and he's like, I'm done with this. Everyone, like, every time I do a job, people around me get hurt and stuff like that. And
Hmm.
this entire movie is just bad luck happening to him.
Okay. Is this a
So
comedy or no?
it's like an action comedy.
Okay.
So I'll come back to that in a second
All right.
because he gets on this train, and this movie could have really been set almost anywhere because
Hmm.
nearly every main character is just white. Like there's barely any Japanese people in it. There's
Okay.
two main characters
Hmm.
that are Japanese, I want to say, and then everyone else is uh, Western, right?
Okay.
And even like I said to my wife during the movie, I'm like, this is the most white people that have been on a bullet train ever at once.
Yes, and I've rode actual bullet trains, and yes, they're not as maybe late in recent years, pre-COVID, but yeah, yeah.
Yeah. No, so this movie, I'm going to just come off the bat and say it. It's probably the movie I've enjoyed the most this year.
Oh wow, I was not expecting you to say that.
Yeah,
Okay,
I'm not going to say like should win Oscars or anything like that.
sure,
I don't
sure.
think so. But we went into it because I saw trailers and I'm like, Brad Pitt's always fun. You know,
Yeah.
it looks somewhat amusing.
Hmm.
Okay. And then I saw like Rotten Tomatoes, it was like 50%.
Hmm.
I was like, that's a shame. I'm like, well, we'll go see
Sure.
it still because there's not much else. I don't know how the fuck this movie only got like that rating. And then
Hmm.
I went on like Reddit or something and looked at the discussion,
Yeah.
and literally every single comment is, "What the fuck is wrong with the critics? This movie was great."
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
everyone was like, "This is a great time. It's funny. It's hilarious. The action's great.
Hmm.
Um, it's just an enjoyable like 2 hours."
Interesting. I mean, on Rotten Tomatoes, I mean, they usually give like reasons for why they rated it, right? Like, do you know
I
what
never
the
looked into that. I never
Okay,
looked into that. I do know
interesting.
that some people had an issue with the whitewashing because this is based on a book,
Hmm.
and all the characters in the book, I understand, are Japanese.
All right, fair
Yeah,
enough.
so like Brad Pitt's character, I'm pretty sure is Japanese in the book. Joey King is in it. My wife said she's in some Netflix rom
Hmm.
com.
But like,
Uh,
this wasn't originally a Japanese movie that then got adapted, right?
no,
Like,
it was a book. It was a book,
okay,
and this is
just the book.
yeah.
Well, because
Um,
like I know there's been plenty of cases where there's a movie in Japan and then America just takes it and makes an American
yeah,
version, but this is the only version. Okay.
as far as I'm aware, at least.
Hmm.
The runaway stars of this movie is Aaron Taylor Johnson,
Okay.
and I can't remember the other guy's name, but he played the guy in Eternals who like did all the like
Let me look.
building and stuff like the mechanics of it. Uh,
Let's see here. Who's this cast? Well, I'm taking a.
but yeah,
Uh,
he's in Eternals,
yeah, I know
and
you're talking about.
he plays like they play hitmen,
Hmm.
but they so Aaron Taylor Johnson's like the most cockney guy ever, like
Good.
really rough around the edges, and then the other guy's like also a cockney as well, but he's obsessed with Thomas the Tank Engine.
The fuck? Why?
Yeah, and just because he's like everything I learned from Thomas the Tank Engine, and he assigns everyone personalities based on the characters from Thomas the Tank Engine,
The fuck?
and he's just the entire movie. He's just talking about Thomas the Tank Engine all the time. Everyone's telling him to shut up,
Great. What an
and he has
interesting
like
quirk.
yeah, he has like a sticker book with all the characters stuff that he carries around with him.
Why not? Fuck it.
Yeah, but those
All
two are
right.
great to the point where I was like, I would love like a spin-off trilogy of just those two characters.
Hmm.
Like that is like a universe I'd be up for
All
being
right. Good.
created. You know, not this Ferris Bueller, the
Oh Jesus
fucking
Christ.
valets.
I I just on one hand I'm surprised, but on the other hand I'm not.
Yeah.
But that's another story.
Yeah.
Does this take place like in modern day, or is this supposed to be like a
It's in
futuristic
modern day. It's
thing?
in
Okay.
modern day. There's also a couple of cameos as well that I was not expecting that had like the
Mm.
whole theater laughing their head off.
Hmm.
Like,
All right.
um, this is just one of those really surprising fun movies. It feels like something that everyone would have had on DVD in like 2004, 2005, and
Yeah.
everyone would have loved.
Hmm.
But I think the issue is it sort of is come out in that sort of post-COVID. No one really cares about anything unless it's a big budget franchise movie.
Yeah.
Like
Like
this would have been a hit 15 years ago.
Yeah, it seems like there's the idea of just a goofy, fun, don't take yourself too seriously movie. Yeah, like unless I'm just not looking hard enough, I can't. I don't know the last one of those I can think of that came out, I guess.
Yeah, and it's got an amazing cast, as I said. And what makes me laugh now is like, do you remember a few years back, like Scarlett Johansson? Like, I thought she should have won like Best Actress and Best Supporting Actress in the same year because she did like Marriage Story and Jojo Rabbit, right?
Sure.
And I watched those movies. I'm like, yeah, because she's only done Marvel movies for the last 10 years. Like, you forget she can really act.
Yeah, well, Adam Driver too. Like that dude's an
Yeah,
incredible actor. Like I love watching him. And then
and
you see him in Star Wars.
that's why it's nice to see these actors who are normally now in those big franchise movies doing something a bit different and a bit quirky. It sort of
Hmm.
feels like a cross between the Bourne Identity and like a Guy Ritchie Lock Stocks sort of movie.
That's fun. All right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I would really, really recommend it. It maybe is like 15, 20 minutes too long.
Okay.
And the action does get a bit silly at the end.
All right.
But overall, it is really, really enjoyable.
Hmm.
I don't know if it's really in theaters much anymore. I'd still suggest going to see it. I think like if we're going to support stuff, we need to kind of vote
Mhm.
with our wallet. No
Yeah.
one's going to have a bad time going to watch this. If they are, I'm seriously going to judge about how fun they are as a person.
Yeah, that is odd. Like why I don't know if like critics were expecting some like deep narrative or something or yeah, that's a shame that it like that's another one of those things with like Rotten Tomatoes as much as I think it's better than a lot of other places. I think, yeah, they're not perfect. You know, they don't get. It's like any critic place; they're not going to get everything right. It doesn't. You know, they don't represent all people's opinions. So,
No.
but that is crazy that there's that much of a disconnect. Though.
Yeah, and it's not even like you see it sometimes. Like what was it? Dave Chappelle did the special, and like
Yeah,
it got like 0% on Rotten Tomatoes, and then like the audience score was 100 and stuff like
sure.
that. There's no like actor in this that, as far as I'm aware, is like said something controversial. You know, like
Yeah,
it's not turned out like the director was sexually harassing anyone or anything
sure.
like, which is what normally causes those massive disconnects. This seems like a genuine. One side doesn't like it, one side loves it, and they're sort of staring at each other in confusement.
So make up your mind, but
Yeah,
it sounds like you enjoyed it though.
well, I really enjoy it. And I when I said I'll come back to like what kind of genre it was,
Oh, yeah,
um, I was like, this is like really stylish, the way it's shot, like the way it's all
yeah.
cut and edited and stuff like that. And I'm watching the movie, I'm like, who is the director of this?
Hmm.
And I saw the name at the end. I'm like, I don't recognize that name. And I went on
Okay.
IMDb, and it was the guy who directed Deadpool 2.
Really?
And I'm like, yeah, you can kind of see it, like the way it's shot, the way it's sort of like. And apparently, he did that Hobbs and Shaw Fast and Furious spin-off movie.
Oh,
I never watched that, so I don't
yeah.
know.
But
But I'm
like
like, oh,
actiony, kind of quick sort of stuff going on. Yeah,
yeah, quippy, but also has serious moments and sad moments.
sure.
Because that's the fun thing with like Brad Pitt's character is like, as I say, he's like the most unlucky guy in the world,
Hmm.
and that really plays into the story and stuff. Like
Okay.
he goes through like six phones because they keep breaking during the movie.
So
uh,
does it all take place just on this train, and that's it?
for the most part, they step off at stations and stuff like. But they,
Okay.
the bullet train departing every 60 seconds, that kind of plays into the joke. So if they've got to do something quickly because the train's about to set off again, but Brad Pitt's trying to get off the train at every stop, but every something stops him every single time, and,
Good.
and he stays stuck on there. And
That's funny.
I think when we spoke about the boys, I said this like action scenes in like Marvel movies and stuff and DC
Hmm.
movies don't move me at all now because there's only so many times you can see someone get punched through a wall and you're like, oh, okay, right.
Yeah.
My eyes glaze over. And then I said in the boys because they've got a lower budget and it's like in a room and
Hmm.
you feel it more. This is the same. This is I want to call it sloppy action. I don't
Hmm.
know what the official term would be. But you know, in fight scenes where people are just like sloppily getting by and like
Sure.
they're just like blocking shots instead of like punching
Hmm.
back and stuff like that, and it feels
Yeah.
a bit more genuine than a perfectly choreographed fight where people are like
Sure.
doing backflips and kicking like over their head and stuff like that, and you're like, no one actually fights like that. It looks ridiculous.
Well, that's why, like, I do enjoy the John Wick movies. I will say they do choreograph them extensively because it is more up close without cutting away, and it gets ridiculous. But sometimes when you watch John Wick movies, it's like this is almost like too perfect, a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, you feel like someone's rehearsed this.
Yeah, exactly.
And the moment you feel that, any kind of like suspension of disbelief goes out the window. You know.
Sure, sure.
Yeah,
So no, that's good. Okay, interesting.
yeah. I would give it a very big thumbs up. Like I didn't know the director beforehand, and I'm like, oh yeah, Deadpool 2. I feel like people would credit that series more to Ryan Reynolds than anyone else. He's
Sure,
one of
sure.
those like Tom Cruise people that seems to pretty much boss how
Hmm.
things are actually done on the movie sets, and the director just sort of turns up and shoots. But
Yeah.
after watching this, I'm like, oh, well, maybe that director actually did a lot more than I thought, and I'm actually now like, what's he going to do next?
Okay.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah,
No, that's really good. Yeah, I like I said, I was not expecting you uh, to come with a glowing review. I mean, not like when I saw the trailer, I was like, okay, I could see this being kind of a fun action movie. I guess I don't know. I didn't expect much from it, just for whatever reason, just didn't catch
yeah.
my attention
I
at
don't think the
first.
trailers
But
were great or anything.
yeah,
Yeah,
so which is unfortunate. But yeah, now that you're saying, it, I mean, shit. All right, I'll have to check this out. It sounds like a good time.
yeah, yeah. As I said, like, I think a lot of people are going to watch it because they're like, oh, I like Japan because games are made there. Um,
Sure. Hey, man, whatever gets people in the seats.
yeah, but like this really could have been set anywhere. The bullet
Sure.
train, I think, is just a convenient setting
Yeah.
for certain things, but this could have easily been like the subway in New York, or
Yeah.
you know.
But
And I'm
yeah, I'm
also
sure.
kind of surprised they didn't do that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess obviously you have that aesthetic and the stylistic choice of setting it there, and you could do all kinds of cool shit with it. So, like, yeah, it's always just a neat place to shoot stuff, I guess, too. So, yeah, I get it.
Yeah,
But the most important question, though, is this: do they set it up for a franchise? Is there another one coming?
not really. No,
Okay.
no, and I don't. As I said, I could easily watch a movie about two characters that are in this,
Yeah.
the hitmen. That they could easily do a spin off of.
Hmm.
I don't really know where you go with Brad Pitt's character after this
Okay.
movie, or nearly anyone else.
They'll find a way. Don't worry.
Yeah, they'd have to. What they called? They're called lemon and tangerine.
Great pair name.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's
Um,
funny.
yeah, so they could easily do like a whole series because they always talk about like, oh, do you remember like the Bolivia job we did? And it just cuts to like 2 seconds of them like with a mountain of bodies and like a wood chipper, and then it just cuts back like, like
Yeah.
you could easily do stuff like that. Like,
That's funny.
yeah,
That's
yeah, yeah.
funny. Well, good, good. All right. Sounds like a thumbs up from
Thumbs
you.
up. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Nice,
Go see
nice.
Bullet Train.
I'll have to check it out. Yeah, if it's not in theaters anymore, then I'll definitely put it on the list for rentals as well. Because I'm assuming because everything now comes out fairly quickly now on home rentals. So if it's, I could probably watch it here soon if I miss it in the
Yeah,
theater.
nothing's like come out recently, and I was like, "Oh, what do you want to see? Do you want to go to the movies this weekend?" We're like, "Oh, let's see what's on." And we're like, "Elvis," and I'm like, "I think that's on.
Eh.
I think I saw that on the TV. Like, you can rent that." I'm like, "What?"
Already, yeah,
Yeah, I'm like, even though we pay for that AMC A list where you can see like
yeah,
3 movies a week for like 20
right.
bucks, I'm like, I'd rather pay 20 bucks and watch it at home again.
Stan-
And just not have some fucking asshole next to me who's like, that's Elvis to his girlfriend.
yeah, do you know who that is? I bet you'll never guess.
That's Elvis.
Holy shit! Oh
He's
my
gonna
god.
sing Hound Dog.
Now that's the place that I want to be at. I haven't been
Yeah.
to a theater in a while. I need to
You
check
don't. You
him out
don't
again.
need it. You don't need to go. There's shit. 5 minutes into
Uh,
the movie, people walk in with a hot dog and a popcorn bucket, looking for the seats, and you're
fucking
like,
tripping over.
it, "You missed 30 minutes of ads. Like, why? Why couldn't you have got here 10 minutes
I don't
earlier?"
get it.
Like,
I don't get it.
ah,
Did I ever tell you? Okay, really. I know we're basically at the end. I'm going to tell this quick story. Okay, many years ago, I went to well, okay, not that many, like probably four. I went to go see the first Quiet Place in movie theater, and as the name suggests, it's a quiet movie, like very quiet. There's certain scenes where like you can hear a pin drop type of thing, right? Because I mean that's part of the movie. There was one scene where they're walking down. It's the one where they're like walking down this railroad track. It's super quiet. They're saying like, he's going like, shh, don't say anything, whatever. At that moment, a guy 2 rows in front of me got a cell phone call and it's had a full on conversation on his phone in the middle of a fucking quiet place, the quietest movie of all. Everyone in the theater, like, I've never seen anything like it. Everyone simultaneously like raised their hands, like, "Is this happening? Like,
yeah.
really? This is happening?" And he kept doing it, and so finally, someone from the other side, after like literally 5 seconds of not dealing with the shit anymore, he just went, "Shut the fuck up, get out, put your phone away." And he kept talking and everyone kept screaming at him, and finally he got up and left, and
I don't know
like
why you
everyone
think
just
that's
started clapping.
okay. Yeah, I don't know why you think that's okay.
I just like it's not okay ever, and yeah,
No.
that boggles my mind, but it's funny that it happened in that of all movies, and it just made it like everyone just started laughing honestly after he left, and then it went back, but my mind was blown. I couldn't believe it.
Nothing gives me more anxiety than the people who sit around me during the ads before the movie,
Oh yeah.
because I feel like you can't tell people to shut up during the ads because they're all on YouTube if you really want to watch them anyway, right?
Right.
And so I'm like, okay, I've got to let it fly if they're talking during this because who gives a
Hmm.
fuck if let the pet trailer for DC Super Pets or whatever
You,
fucking
you
get
don't want to
talked
see
over.
Maria Menounos talk about the next thing coming up or
No,
whatever she's talking
yeah,
about?
whatever. Dude, fucking blow a guy during that for all I care. Like right next to me, okay? But it gives
Yeah.
me anxiety because I'm like, are they gonna fucking do this during the movie?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Right? Are they gonna? Because you're sitting there and you're going, oh fuck, what if they carry on?
Hmm.
And I went to see one movie, and literally like the bit before where it's like, thank you for coming at AMC. Just before the movie starts, the
Yeah.
guy answers his phone,
God
and
damn
I'm
it.
like, fuck. And he got off it just before the
Hmm.
movie started. He's like, yeah, I'm in the movie, right? I'll call you back. Right,
Yeah.
but it's just that I don't enjoy the before the movie, and then like
Hmm.
once the movie starts, I'm like, ah.
Yeah.
I'm like,
it just ruins it.
yeah, but I'm recovering for 5 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah. When they're talking, even during the intro credits, that's where, yeah, I get on edge a little bit as well. I totally get it. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
it's painful. So yeah, I kind of have I think we talked about this before. I have like a love hate relationship with theaters. Like on one hand, I do like going to them still if people are respectful of the experience. But if not, then I want to blow my brains out. I fucking hate it. So it's a mix
Yeah,
for me.
yeah. I I would happily if they said I never had to leave my house again. I'd be happy.
I mean, granted, I watch plenty of crap at home too, with obviously streaming services, and that is becoming the norm. But I do still like going to a theater, maybe for certain movies. I don't know. Maybe it's just pure
I've
nostalgia.
got surround sound. I've got a 65-inch OLED Dolby Vision like TV.
Sure.
At this point, I don't think it is a better experience at the theater because it used to be like if I wanted to watch Lord of the Rings in the early 2000s, right?
Yeah,
You might have a widescreen TV.
sure.
You have a DVD player.
Hmm.
That wasn't as good as seeing it on the big 300 feet with like the big bass and stuff like that, right? I
Yeah.
think we're now at a point where the picture's just as good, if not better.
Well, yeah, that's why a
And
lot of
yeah,
theaters are now doing other shit to entice people to come in, right? Like
yeah.
that's the thing. So the theater that I go to when I do want to go by me, I actually really enjoy for a couple reasons. One, it doesn't matter the time, day, how new a movie, whatever it is, I can basically always get a ticket for like $8 compared to
Mhm.
all the other theaters, which are like sometimes $5, $6, $7 more per ticket, especially, like prime time type of stuff. And then on top of that, it also doubles as a fairly good restaurant and tap room, and beers are like $4 as well, maybe a little bit more for other beers. So, and you can bring them into the theater as well. So, and it's a smaller theater as well. So I actually do enjoy my one local theater where I can do that. But if I were to go to like, like I have an AMC by me as well, and that is like, full price everything, like,
Mm.
you have to, yeah, it's not the same type of experience. So if it wasn't for that one theater by me where I can do that, then I would probably be more on the negative side of never wanting to go to a theater again.
Yeah, it's just for me. It sounds too. It seems too risky.
Imminent threat of not enjoying the movie.
Yeah, yeah. I just know when I'm at home, I'm going to enjoy. And
Yeah,
I
I
think
get it.
there is something about seeing a really good movie in theaters. I do
Sure,
agree.
sure.
The fact you've made an event of seeing it,
Yeah.
I do think makes it a little bit more special.
Hmm.
But I
Yeah.
won't forget when I went to watch Ghostbusters. Like
Yeah.
both sides of me were just absolute assholes.
Oh, the most recent one?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
that was like me and my wife walked out and we are like, what is going on here tonight?
Yeah.
Like we were walking out and there was like a whole family who had no shoes walking out. And like she's turned to me and like pointing, and I'm like, what is going on? And then like the woman who was like a few seats down the entire time was just like Slimer, when it wasn't. It
The
wasn't even
fuck?
Slimer.
God damn
Like
it.
you know,
Uh, yeah, it doesn't happen often where you have those mega events. Like I saw Avengers Endgame opening night, and that was an experience I will never forget in a good way, because I mean the theater was packed and everyone was losing their shit at that end scene where they all come together and fight against Thanos, and that was exciting because everyone was cheering together and fucking like stomping and losing their minds. And I normally in a theater I wouldn't like that, but for that event, like, it was actually kind of fun to see. But for that stuff, like, that's a once in a
you
lifetime
mean
type of
everyone didn't
experience.
cheer in Titanic when the iceberg hit?
Yeah. Fall to the bottom of the ocean, you
Fuck
fuck.
them up.
Freeze to death. But yeah, on the whole, it is unfortunate. Like, I don't think theaters are necessarily. I do worry for some of the smaller theaters to an extent, but for the bigger ones, it's just, I feel like at this point it's just going to turn into just showcasing the next Marvel movie, the next DC movie, the next sequel of a franchise you've seen 1,000 times, and those other movies are going to, like, go to Netflix or Hulu, or which I guess I'm not like against, but then that just means, personally, I don't really want to go to the theater all that often anymore, unfortunately. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. So we'll see. We'll see how the landscape changes, especially as
Everything's shit now.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, moral of the story: everything sucks. Stay home.
But
That's
two
it.
thumbs up.
Yeah, with 2 thumbs up, 100%. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So, if you want to see more depressing content about the decline of the movie theater industry, feel free to subscribe. Let us know what you think. How do you like your local theater? Do people wear shoes to your theater? Oh, fuck. But yeah, make sure to follow us. Stay tuned for the next one where we'll probably talk about a video game for a change. And yeah, we'll see you on the next one. Take it easy, everyone.
Bye.